Hey, I'm Josh, and this is Red Decks Win, a podcast for the best color in Magic the Gathering. I'm going to be a little self-indulgent with this show, and hopefully it's useful and meaningful to you as well, as we talk about a creature printed this year that's important to the red community. It's one of the best red cards ever printed, arguably the best red creature ever printed, Ragavan, the Nimble Pilferer. This card came out with Modern Horizons 2 in the summer, and I haven't talked about it yet because I'm unhappy with it, honestly. When I was writing down my notes for this show, I was trying to justify why I dislike Ragavan and trying to say it's not really a red card, or it doesn't fit into Burn, and Burn's my favorite archetype, or, gameplay justification of that sort. The truth is, though, there's only one real reason I don't like Ragavan: the price. I want red decks to be great. I want the best decks in the format to have red cards in them. But one thing I don't like about Magic the Gathering is cost. Not the mana cost, but the price of playing the game. And that's partially why I enjoy red, and partially why a lot of people start out with mono red decks, is that budget aspect. Red decks are seen as this entry-level deck, not only because of their simplicity, but also the price of admission. And a quick aside about that, when I say simplicity, sometimes people confuse that with lack of skill with red. I don't think that's the case. If money was no object and I could play any style of deck in any color, I would still be playing red. Anyways, Magic at any competitive level, when you're trying to win at Friday night at your local game store or online with people in a certain format, it gets expensive real quick. Now, exactly how overpriced Magic the Gathering is what's debated. For this episode, I just want to focus on Modern, though. If you're unaware, here are the card details for Ragavan, Nimble Pilferer. For 1 red, you get a legendary creature, Monkey Pirate type. It is a 2/1. Whenever Ragavan, Nimble Pilferer deals combat damage to a player, create a treasure token and exile the top card of that player's library. Until end of turn, you may cast that card. Ragavan also has a dash ability for 1 and a red. Dash is a keyword we've seen before, which means you may cast a spell for its dash cost. If you do, it gains haste, and it's returned from the battlefield to its owner's hand at the beginning of the next end step. And for my purposes today, one of the most important things about Ragavan is its rarity. It is a mythic. When a great card is printed at Mythic, everyone knows it's going to be an expensive card. When you print the best red 1-drop creature in Magic history, arguably the best red creature ever, and you print it at Mythic, it ends up costing $90 per copy of the monkey. This was all very intentional, and that's what really kills me. With Ragavan, you don't need some crazy broken combo with an obscure card that was printed years ago, and somehow it slipped past research because of it. No, just on its own, Ragavan is amazing. You just play it or dash the card for 1 or 2 mana. You do that in the early game, and if you're able to connect with damage, you are in fantastic shape. Ragavan gives you ramp, it gives you cards from your opponent's deck, so it might even take some card they needed, and it's hitting for 2 to them, all in one package by turn 2 at the earliest. Ragavan is as pushed as possible. Wizards of the Coast knew they could drive up demand for Modern Horizons 2 by making Ragavan mythic. They knew they had made a 1-mana red creature that's a 2/1, which is already normal, if not better stats than your average red creature. And not only does it have those vanilla stats, it's got 3 different meaningful upsides. And they knew with Modern Horizons 2 they were going to be warping the entire Modern meta. Wizards views all Modern players as whales, who are already spending at least $400 if they want a real competitive deck, so why not have a playset of a card be worth $360? These Horizon sets are pseudo-rotation for Modern, and I'm not a fan of that. So let's check the most played cards in Modern from MTG Goldfish. The monkey is the second most played creature in Modern. It's in 20% of decks. The only thing in front of it is Lurrus of the Dream Den. That companion's in 24% of decks. And the thing with Lurrus is it's a $12 card as opposed to $90, and most likely you're just going to want 1 as your companion. The list of top 10 creatures that see play in Modern, all of them except Stoneforge Mystic were printed in the last 2 years. 3 of them are Evoke cards, and 5 of the cards overall are from Modern Horizons 2. Ragavan, Endurance, Solitude, Dragon's Rage Channeler, Sanctifier Invec, and Fury. Some power creep I think's okay for Modern, and I don't know exactly what my line is for too much power creep, but I think this crosses it. Modern is interesting as a non-rotating format. You want to have that security of this card's going to remain a staple for years, and I can play cards in this deck years down the road. Trust that those old cards you bought and spent money on still have value. And you also want excitement of new cards that'll freshen up the format and maybe make old obscure cards playable again. I think that security aspect is being lost when Wizards of the Coast can just print the best without having it go through Standard. Ragavan is the most expensive mono red card in Modern. It's the second most expensive card in Modern behind Wrenn and 6. If you make an extremely pushed card that you know is going to become a new staple for Modern, and you make it a mythic rare, it's going to be one of the most expensive. If Ragavan was a rare, or if it only cost $20, I wouldn't care. See, even if it was $90 and a rare, I'd be like, well, it's not like Wizards of the Coast did everything they could to make this expensive. They could have made it mythic. And if it was a $20 card and was mythic rare, well, that's expensive for cardboard, according to non-Magic the Gathering Society. In my life, I've made worthwhile purchases for Magic for $20 for a single card. Now, too expensive is subjective. Everybody has their own standard of what it is, but for me, it's the monkey. Wizards of the Coast, you can make expensive, flashy, staple mythics for every color, but when you make a 1-drop for red, your cash cow, you're stepping on my paws. Here's the top 10 most expensive mono red cards that are legal in the Modern format. Ragavan's number 1, then we got Seasoned Pyromancer at number 2, and that's from the original Modern Horizons. Savage Beating is next, and it's the only one of these top 10s that's a rare and not a mythic rare. It was only printed once back in Darksteel, and it's an EDH card. The only Planeswalker in the top 10 is Sarkhan Dragon Soul at number 4. Balefire Dragon is next, also for EDH. Goldspan Dragon is the only standard legal card that is in this top 10. Tear of the Peaks, another big scary mythic dragon. Fiery Emancipation is next. Both that and Tear of the Peaks are from M21. Pilferer, God of the Forge, is next at number 9, and already we've gone from $90 to Pilferer being $16. Neheb the Eternal is number 10. Just outside that top 10, by the way, at number 11 most expensive is Blood Moon. So, I've said a lot of negative things about price. There's still good news, though, if you are somebody that likes the old to still have some value, at least in terms of gameplay value, maybe not monetary value. Non-creature spells in Magic the Gathering, historically, the older has been some of the most powerful, and that's somewhat the case for Modern still. The most played spell in Modern is also one of the oldest spells in Magic the Gathering, Lightning Bolt. And it's a much larger chunk of the meta than Ragavan is. It's in 37% of decks. Why am I not up in arms with Lightning Bolt? Well, it's been printed 17 times, many of those printings at common. You can get Lightning Bolt for $3. A playset is going to cost you 1/6 of what it would cost to buy one Ragavan. Lightning Bolt is the best and most classic red card there is. Meanwhile, the new guy in town, Ragavan, has one printing from this year at Mythic Rare, and the flavor itself isn't super red, which isn't great justification, but this is a red show. Let's talk about it anyways. So, just the vanilla body of the monkey, you get 2 power and 1 toughness for 1 red mana. No downside. There's only 2 other creatures that have a 2/1 body for 1 red mana with no downside. Funny enough, they're both vampires, Falconwrath Gorger and Falconwrath Pitfighter from the new Innistrad set. And yes, I did a whole show on Vexing Devil, but I would argue that Vexing Devil has a downside in giving the player choice, or your opponent choice. Goblin Guide as well has downside, even though it's a 2/2 with haste. You're filtering their lands. So Ragavan, on its own, one of the best bodies you can get for 1 red mana. How about treasure? Well, red has seen support for treasure, but that's not really an exclusive mechanic that's only for red. Everybody in the color pie is getting a slice of the new treasure mechanic action. I will say for Ragavan, though, dash feels and is mostly a red mechanic from the Tarkir block. Playing other people's cards, red has some of that as well. On Scryfall, I looked at Exile Top Play and found 44 of the 115 cards are mono red, and then 56 of those include red. My aggravation at the cost of Ragavan and the way things are changing in Magic with the Modern Horizons sets, it makes me question myself. Am I somebody that's too reluctant to change in my life? Do I sometimes need to adjust more to what's new in life to become a better human? Am I too stuck on traditions that in the long run aren't essential for my enjoyment or for my meaning in life? I think the answer to those questions is yes. Sometimes I am too hostile towards the new and updated. The good news is that means you might be more open to value in the things that have already existed that other people have left behind. On the other hand, I'm not Mr. No Change in everything, even when it comes to Magic the Gathering. I'm a heathen to Magic art traditionalist. I like the post-8th edition borders better, and I'm a fan of the many alternative arts we're getting in just about every set now. Ragavan Nimble Pilferer, it's also not so oppressive that it's going into every single deck that has red in it. Burn is experimenting with the card, but as far as I know, most Burn lists are still sticking with Guide, Eidolon, and Swiftspear. There's debate in Modern, is Ragavan good for Burn, or is it just the flavor of the month? Me, I'm hoping it's not a Burn staple, because I want the cost of my favorite deck to be down, so I can play it cheaper, and more other people can play it for a cheap price. So I don't know how much that informs my bias of thinking Ragavan's good. If I tell myself, oh no, it's not good in Burn, then I don't have to buy it. The other good news with Ragavan, if you're scared it's too overpowered, it is legendary, so that means they're not going to have multiple monkeys on the board at once pilfering you a turn, unless they're doing some kind of token, non-legendary tokens shenanigans. And I'll say one more nice thing about Ragavan. The flavor on it's great. Picturing a monkey skittering across the board to my opponent's deck, taking a card, making treasure out of it, I can't think of something more fitting for a pirate monkey. It seems like a fun card to play, but I haven't played it yet, and it's so overpowered that maybe it feels unfair to me. I should proxy some up, though, and try it before saying that, because I could be too biased again against the price. So overall, Ragavan, it's not a total loss for the game of Magic the Gathering, but I do feel angry that this new modern staple is the second most expensive card in the format, while casting for my favorite casting cost in Magic the Gathering, 1 red mana. So I hope this podcast was of interest to you and maybe spoke some of the feelings you had about the card. Maybe I was too harsh on Ragavan. Maybe I didn't go in detail enough about the gameplay side of things. That was the mood I was in this week, and I hope it was useful to you. I'm Josh, and this has been Red Decks Win. Play mountains, climb mountains, conquer mountains.